Welcome to episode 10 of Project Versus. A quick recap of what occurred in the previous episode. I made the switch to the Pacific Polypower Pro string, that's the 1.30mm gauge, and I was pretty happy with the way it performed for the first couple hours. And I played one practice match where things didn't really go to plan, and afterwards I had a look at the string bed and saw that the mains had dented into the cross strings, which meant now they've kind of created a valley into the crosses, and so it's difficult for the mains to move out of that valley, and basically my access to snapback is severely limited as a result. And so to counter this measure, I've lubricated the strings before every practice session, before every practice match, and I've come up with a few ways to keep the strings slippery during my sessions and during my matches. So yeah, we're in the middle of a practice match actually, where I had taken the first set 6-love against a player who's got a very positive head-to-head record against me. I think it's something like 16-3 in his favor at the moment. So for us to take the first set 6-love is a shock to myself. It's a nice one, but I did not expect that, and hopefully we can keep it up, but let's see how we got on. And into the second set, which ended 6-4 in my favor. So I got off to a quick start, a break up, and I managed to hold serve, and until the end of the set I managed to keep that lead. His level did rise a little bit, especially from the first set, and the conditions are starting to slow up, which I feel favors him as he's ultra consistent from the back of the court. But I don't think he's playing as well as he could, or in fact I know he could play better than this. And maybe it's a combination of his level dropping and my strategies not really allowing him to use his strengths, his patterns of play that he likes to use. Like, for example, I've mentioned before, he's got a backhand slice that I would rate as amongst some of the best that I've played against. And he would usually play it cross-court into my backhand. And it's heavy, it's got a lot of underspin. But with the setup that I've got now, it allows me to re-slice it back to his backhand with just as much spin, if not even heavier. And so when we're getting into those cross-court backhand slices, I found that it's he that is changing up direction, and not really with any intention to put me under pressure. I've always thought changing direction for no reason is just increasing risk for no reason, and so it was, maybe he just didn't think that was a profitable pattern of play. And to be fair, I would probably agree with him, because I was neutralizing his strength, and so perhaps it was a good idea in hindsight for him to change up the direction into my forehand. But I have been practicing drills like that. I was expecting him to be able to come up with different strategies on the fly, and so I've been practicing that backhand down the slice that he plays into my forehand, and I've been trying to whip that cross court into his less consistent wing. And despite it being the more powerful wing, it is more vulnerable under pressure, and you know, it just works all in my favor. I feel like I'm thinking clearly on court, and of course it's easier when you're a couple games up straight away at the beginning of the set. But yeah, let's see if we can keep it up. I don't want this level to drop, really. I know in the past I've gone up a set, or I've never gone up a couple sets actually against this player, I don't think. But in the past I've gone up a set and I've relaxed a little bit, thinking to myself, you know what, I've got a third set even if things don't go my way. But not this time. I'm going to get my head down, and I'm really going to make sure he works for it. If he does win, so be it, but he's going to have to work for it. So yeah, let's get into the third set. Right, into the third set, and he goes 2-love up quickly. I guess that little pep talk before the start of the set that I had with myself didn't really work, as my level wasn't quite where it was in the second or the first set especially. But yeah, he's come out, and he's gonna try and salvage something from this match by the looks of it, because he's grinding hard still, and I like that. I like that he hasn't given up. So we're 2-love down, and I've got to regroup, which is exactly what I do. I managed to break back and actually hold serve to even it up. And I'm not really changing too much, as what I'm doing has been working well in the first set and in the second set, even as the conditions have been slowing up. And maybe one little error I've made is not using enough drop shots when I've had the chance to. I've been in the ascendancy for the entire match, really, and I've been playing most of my tennis from inside the baseline. But this has happened before, where I feel like I've been playing well and forgotten, just straight up forgotten to use drop shots. So if I do that, I give my opponent the chance to get into a rhythm and just camp behind the baseline, knowing that I'm not going to mix up the lengths. I'm not even short slicing cross court, really. So I feel like that was a little bit of a mistake, but I'm getting off track. Mostly I'm sticking to the strategies that I've been practicing in my sessions, whether it be reslicing back to his backhand slice or directing a lot of the traffic into his forehand. And that sees me through to 5-2 up, which I feel like I've got the match done and dusted, really. At this point, it's my serve to take it, but it's never that simple, is it? He breaks. I don't feel like I played too bad, maybe a few too many errors, but he breaks, he holds serve, and so it's me to try and serve it out. And I'm fully wired in this time. I'm going to try and get 3 points on every serve, whether it be first or second. I think the great thing about this string is I can push so much spin on it. I can swing pretty quick without worrying about the ball going long. It really is one of my, well, it's turning out to be one of my favorite setups so far. And with that confidence, I went into the first 2 points. I hit first serves aggressively, one on the deuce side out into his forehand, which he made an error. And on the ad side, I aimed it slightly to the left of his. So I tried to jam him up, and he could have taken it on either side, whether it be the forehand or the backhand. But as the ball was coming into him, he decided to take it on his backhand, try and run around his forehand a little bit. I think he kind of noticed that I was targeting the forehand throughout the match. So he tried to run around it, hit the backhand, but he netted it. And eventually I got to 40-15, where I hit another first serve and got another 3 point. And man, getting 3 points makes life so much easier. And the strings are so well suited to the slice serve. It's given me the confidence I need to hit out. And, you know, even with the newfound confidence I got in my serve, there are going to be moments where I tighten up. I just can't help it. I don't understand. It's something in my wiring. But even if my swing speed slows up, I don't feel like I lose too much control over the ball, as the string provides so much slice, even on a slower swing speed. So I'm lucky in that regard. And yeah, I feel like this setup is really working in my favor. And the final score was 6-love, 6-4, 6-4. So a straight sets victory for me, one that I did not expect. And so we're going to go through some of the positives I took away from the match, some of the negatives, and then we'll move on to some drills that I've got in mind. And also I got a tournament lined up the Sunday coming up. So yeah, looking forward to that. Let's see if we can keep up this good form. Okay, on to the positives I took away from this match. And I feel like keeping the strings lubricated from the start and being able to do so throughout the match really paid off. The amount of slice and spin that I could put on the ball is up there with some of the best setups that I've personally used. And I feel proud of my serve. You know, for the first time since I've come back to tennis from my injury, I actually don't go onto court. I mean, I'm always a little bit nervous before a big match, but I don't feel too disheartened by the poor serving that I've been showing recently up until this point. So I'm really pleased about that. I'm getting quite a few 3 points, especially out wide on the deuce side, when I can really get the swing speed going and get the slice, the movement through the air, the skid off of the court. The indoor hard courts, they do take the slice serve well, and they really benefit me in that regard. And I'm also able on the ad side to tuck up the right hander if I not aim too far out wide, maybe aim it like a foot inside and try and get that swing into the body, tuck up the player. I've been able to get a few 3 points in that way as well. So, and a few 3 points when it was important. I think it was at 30-15, serving for the match, and I managed to tuck up my opponent then, and so I'm pleased about that. 3 points just make life so much easier. So yeah, keeping the strings lubricated from the start and being able to do so on every changeover, a great thing. And the second positive I wanted to reflect on was being able to neutralize my opponent's strength. Well, he's got quite a few strengths, to be fair, but one that has always bothered me quite a lot is his backhand slice, which has, despite being a two-hander, it's always been a little bit heavier than mine. And he would target really both sides, deep into the backhand, deep into the forehand. He would also cut it short into my forehand, but with the new setup, especially into my backhand when it's deep, I'm able to re-slice. I've got so much help from that setup that I'm able to re-slice it deep with just as much underspin, if not more. And when we get into those cross-court slice battles, I feel like I'm coming out on top more often, and it's forcing him to change his game plan, which is what I want to hear. That means that I'm making progress, and so all good there. So I wanted to mention the backhand slice. Right, if we move on to some of the negatives, despite this being one of my favorite setups so far, the launch angle, as expected, is very high. I mean, it's got a big deflection, it's got a lot of dwell time, and so moving up into the court and being aggressive is not easy at all. You've got to be very careful. Despite all that top spin, despite that lower shot speed you get from the longer dwell time, all of that combined still is not enough to just walk up into the court a few foot inside the baseline and attack indiscriminately. It's just not going to happen. You make too many errors. You have to be smart about the way you do things. You have to select the correct shot, and you will get rewarded. The string provides a lot of spin even on slower swing speeds, but if you start being overly aggressive and picking the wrong shot to go for winners on, you're going to make mistakes 100%. So that was the negatives I wanted to mention, the launch angle being very high, and as a result the distance being a bit too long from contact point for my strings to where it lands, and on top of that it makes it difficult to attack the ball from inside of the court. Indoors, because the ball tends to travel further anyway, that problem gets a little bit exacerbated. Perhaps outdoors, when it's a little bit colder, you won't find that to be too much of an issue, but still it will be there, and yeah, we got to deal with it. So that is the positive and negatives of this setup. Overall, I'm very happy, and hopefully we can continue this progress. And I'm going to move on to some drills. Let's have a look at what I've been up to this week. Right, into the first drill, and we are gonna go backhand down the line. Well, most of the time, if I can afford to run around the backhand and hit the forehand inside in, then I will do so. But the drill is mainly focused on the backhand down the line, and it's going to be, as you can see, the feed will be from a slightly sharper, wider angle. And the reason I'm trying to take this up the line is I want a few more patterns of play where I'm able to target the right-hander's forehand, which is generally, in my experience, the less consistent shot, even if it's the more powerful and the type of shot that can deliver more RPMs than their backhand usually. So yeah, I figured it would be a good pattern of play to add to my arsenal, and we'll have a look here. Some of these shots are not as clean as I would like, and that one wasn't too bad. You can see the targets in the corner. They're not as clear as the cones, as I forgot them, unfortunately, but they'll have to suffice for now. And the issues I mentioned previously, where the launch angle off of this string bed. Even outdoors where it wasn't too warm here, you can see the sun isn't out at the moment. We're moving towards dusk, so probably about 10 degrees, and that usually helps with length control. And even then, I'm struggling a little, I would say, with controlling the length. I'm not really hitting through it as much as I would like, not with the confidence anyway that I would like to, and the aggression. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, that launch angle, despite the deflection and the longer dwell time all coinciding to help me put extra spin on the ball, sometimes the angle is just too high even then to control the length and keep it going from beyond the baseline. But even so, I do like the setup. It's awesome, especially in those indoor conditions that I mentioned earlier. I absolutely loved it. Maybe outdoors I would need a little bit more practice on, a little bit more getting used to all the nuances of the string, as I'm about a week into practicing with it at the moment and I'm still learning new things about it, still trying to learn what it's really good at and what it isn't so good at, so I can try to avoid getting into patterns of play that expose its weaknesses. But yeah, that was the first drill where I tried to target the right hander's forehand, and the next drill is a similar one. It's just the feed is from a different position, so we're going to go on to that one. Okay, the second drill, the feeder is inside the baseline, but from the right-hander's forehand side. So I'm trying to switch up the angle a little. I still got the targets in the same spot, but here I figure if the right-hander is going down the line from a attacking position, I would say, this is to try and counter that by redirecting the ball straight back down the line into what I perceive is usually the less consistent side. So yeah, we have a look at how I get on. The directional control, as expected, is not as great as I would like it. I would have to be honest, that extreme deflection and the very low vibration frequency culminate in a racket that is difficult to control in terms of trajectory, height and direction, and it's on display here. Of course, my technique is not perfect and that has to take some of the blame as well, but I want to share the blame equally with the setup. So yeah, I'm trying to get used to it. A few more backhands here, and there's a few that nearly hit the targets. It's not too bad. The technique is maybe getting there. I still feel like I can't really attack the ball as much as I would like. The slices are nice. I feel like I can knife them pretty much as hard as I want, but when I'm trying to drive through the backhand, I don't feel like I have as much length control. But the spin is there. Some of those shots, you can see them jumping off of the court, and despite the launch angle being very high, I still enjoy it. If I have to play on a higher bouncing court where trajectory control is a little bit more difficult than this, I might have to back up behind the baseline where I don't have to deal too much with the incoming heavy ball, and making my setup even more unpredictable in terms of what angle the ball's going to come off of my shot at. Right, let's move on to tournament day. And when I arrived there, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, because on the LTA website the surface wasn't very clear. So I get there and I find out I'm playing on outdoor clay courts. I think it's artificial clay, but they're still very high bouncing. The sun is out, so that's going to make the ball bounce even higher. And well, it's not the conditions I personally would have chosen, but hey, I'm here now, so should be a load of fun still. I'm going to see if I can execute some of the strategies that I have been practicing, and yeah, see if we can get some wins on the board, increase the budget a little bit so we have even more room to play with. And yeah, let's get on to the first round. I'm still looking forward to it, even if the conditions are not ideal for me. Alright, when the draw came out, I was not seeded, which is the first time in a while I haven't been seeded for a draw, which I'm quite happy with. I always want to play at the first round match. On this occasion, there were 16 participants in the main draw, so it wouldn't have mattered either way if I was seeded or not. But yeah, I get a first round match, and hopefully it's not the best player in the tournament, because I haven't played on clay or artificial clay in about 6 or 7 years, probably even more than that. So I want at least one match to really get a feel for the courts, especially with the sliding, the higher bounce, and the way it takes the spin a lot differently to any other court or any other surface that we could play on. So yeah, on to the first round, and I'll do a quick player profile so everyone can get an idea of what I'm coming up against. This player is roughly about 6'1" tall, I believe, 6'1", 6'2". And in the warm-up, the backhand is two-handed, the forehand is quite extreme. I believe it could even be Western, if not it's extreme semi-Western. And so I'm looking at it, I think that can be got at. I mean, it is just a warm-up, so I don't want to be getting duped, but just looking at it from the warm-up, I would say, as it usually is, the forehand looks a little bit more suspect than the backhand. The serve is medium paced. Honestly, it's something I should not be having trouble with at this stage, but you know, surprises in tennis happen all the time, so let's hope we don't have one here. And the volleys and the smashes, they seem pretty good. He said he plays a lot of doubles, so I'd expect that area of his game to be quite solid. But yeah, let's get on to it. Okay, and the first set ended 4-love to myself, and I think I caught him off guard. I could tell he was a double specialist. His movement from the back of the court, laterally especially, just wasn't there. And he's giving me too much time to load up my shots, and while the balls were new, they were kicking up, and he wasn't driving through his shots consistently enough with enough precision as well to really stop me from constantly attacking, constantly moving from the side to side, and throwing in drop shots or short slices on top of that. And it was 4-love, and yeah, I managed to take advantage of the serve as well. And I say that, but not in the way that I would perhaps like to. I can't take the ball early when the courts are bouncing this high, even though he doesn't use a lot of spin on his serve, whether it be the first or the second. It's just still too difficult for me personally with the setup and with the lack of experience on that surface. I just can't take the ball early without risking too many errors, and it just doesn't make sense for me to try and execute that sort of strategy when, you know, over 60% of the shots are going out, going into the net or whatever. Is not good enough. And I could take this opportunity. It was 4-love to practice that strategy, but it's fast four format. I don't really have too much time really to get it right. I've got to be on it from the off, and that's one of the disadvantages, I guess, with this format, but we got to deal with it as best as we can. So yeah, it was a good set overall. For the serve, I guess I had to take a few steps behind the baseline, maybe about a foot to two. Despite the serve being medium pace, I needed that time to maintain control over my return, and I did so well in this set, whether it be ground strokes or the serve, and I took advantage of his ineffective strategy, although I don't want to be too critical as he is a double specialist. And when I gave him the opportunity to come in, he easily put away a few volleys, so I need to make sure that I get enough length, enough kick, enough bounce off of that surface to make it too uncomfortable for him to keep rushing me into the net or just rushing me in general. So yeah, let's get on to the second set. And the second set ended 4-1 to myself. So I managed to keep the pressure on like I did in the first set, but my opponent did play better in the second set. The balls, they were starting to fluff up. I mean, they were about 5 games old going into the second set, plus a warm-up. So they were fluffing up, losing a little bit of pressure. And usually I do not play well when the balls get older. And on top of the surface not being one of my favourites, being very high bouncing, I felt like maybe I was losing a little bit of control over my ground strokes, and again, trying to step inside the baseline, but it just doesn't work for me in these types of conditions. And so I've got to be a bit more patient. I've got to be better from behind the baseline. I think that's a drill that I need to focus on a lot more if I'm going to play more of these clay court tournaments or grittier, high bouncing hard court tournaments. But yeah, back onto the set. I would say he was a bit more consistent. Maybe that's doing him a disservice. He was a lot more consistent in this set, and he mixed it up as well. Trying to, I think I saw him a few times try to run around his forehand, as he noticed I was going into it more often than his backhand, and he was using that more consistent backhand to try and direct it into mine, I guess. And yeah, when it bounces high or when it's driven deep into my backhand, I guess I struggle a little bit on that. I need a little bit more time to play an effective shot. But either way, I feel like I dealt with it about as well as I could have for my first match on clay in goodness knows however many years. And so I think it was a decent showing. I didn't execute the drop shots as well as I would have liked. But anyway, we'll go on to some of the positives and negatives for this match. Okay, on to the positives I could take away from this match. And I thought I was quite aggressive throughout. I was putting a lot of topspin on the ball, especially in the first set of that match. But maybe because he wasn't precise enough, and I took advantage of that, especially on the forehand side. I kept him pinned back, whether it be on the forehand or whether it be on the backhand. And it was just very difficult for him in particular to do anything about the amount of spin I was putting on the ball. So I'm happy with the way I could keep him on the defense. And on top of that, I feel happy to have a match under my belt on the clay surface. I needed a bit of time to get used to it. Still wouldn't say I'm totally comfortable, but I'm happy to get through my first round unscathed. A little bit of experience on the higher bouncing clay court surfaces, and also it's windy as well, so it's good to get a feel for which way the wind is blowing, and yeah, adjust in a match where I can still come away with the win and not have the conditions negatively affect me too much. On to some of the negatives, and to me it's a pretty big one because it's what I practice a lot, and it's taking the ball early. I just can't do it on this type of surface. The ball bounces too steep. I don't have enough control with my setup or my technique, and so that nullifies, or it takes away completely, a lot of my attacking strategies, attacking plans. And so I'm going to have to come up with something else in my quarterfinal. If he is a consistent player, if he's good on this surface at keeping me pinned behind the baseline, and even so, if I manage to get the upper hand, I'm not totally confident with moving inside of the court and taking the ball early. So it could be a potential problem. I might have to use drop shots, use short slices, maybe entice him into the net more, and I'll try and play it from the baseline or a few feet behind. But again, it's not something I've drilled, and I know I've got to play better from behind the baseline. But that is for a future date. I've got to come up with a strategy to try and put him under pressure. So yeah, we'll see how we get on, and yeah, let's get to it. Into the quarterfinal we go. And we'll find out how I got on in the next episode of Project Versus. That is the end of this particular episode. I want to thank everyone for watching, and also remind you that I've got a private subreddit that if you want to join the conversation, where we discuss each other's setups and try to improve with the data and with experience. Just drop me your Reddit username in the comments, or you can email it to me at cupenatennis@hotmail.com. So hopefully I'll see some of you there, and everyone else, I'll hopefully see you on future videos. Again, thank you all for watching. Take care.